So today we're going to play Knights of Charlemagne, which is a simple card game where the players are going back and forth, playing cards that represent your knights to different estates and cities to try to take control of parts of the empire that Charlemagne built. It's pretty simple, so we'll talk about the mechanics real quick, and then we'll show you some of the gameplay. So mechanically, the game centers mostly around playing these cards. You're going to take this deck, shuffle it up, and then you'll take 2 cards and set them aside without looking at them. You then deal each player 8 cards and set the deck in the middle of the table so that you have it as a communal draw pile. Around the deck, you're going to set up a series of tiles. You have these treasure tiles that have treasure on one side with 1 point, and then on the back they have this shield. So you'll set those up, and then you'll also set up a line of 5 estates that go from 1 to 5, and on the back they have a treasure icon, and we'll talk about why that is in a minute. And then you'll also have 5 cities that are in 5 different colors, but are all worth 5 points each. And likewise, on the back have a treasure icon. The last tile that you'll have is a 5-point bonus cathedral. So the way this is going to work is you'll take your cards and you can play them onto an estate that matches their number or a city that matches their color. So you can play this red 4 onto either the 4 estate, which is Strasbourg, or onto the red city, which is Barcelona. You'll go through the entire deck of cards between the 2 players, minus the 2 that you set aside at the start of the game. And when you've run out of cards and all of them have been played onto the table, you'll then see who has played the most cards into each column and divide up points between the players. You can play this as a 2-player game, a 3-player game, or a 4-player game. In the 2-player game, it's just each player putting down cards back and forth. In the 3-player game, you'll have a lane in the middle between your estates and your cities where the 3rd player plays, so you have this 3-way contest for who plays the most cards. In the 4-player game, you're divided into 2 teams, so you each have 8 cards, but you can't talk to your neighbor about which cards you're going to play where, so you have to follow each other's lead on this silent strategy and can't compare notes, so you can't tell them, well, I have a great card to play at Paris, so go ahead and use your blue 4 over here at Strasbourg to secure it. That's kind of the way that the strategy plays out with different numbers of players. So we get to the end of the round when we've run out of cards, and we count up the number of cards that each player has played there. Whoever has played the most gets points equal to the number that's listed on the city. So the 5 estate, Lyon, gets 5 points for the player with the most cards there. And then the treasure tile goes to the other player, so 1 point. The player who has played the second most if we're playing a 3-player game. Or the other team if we're playing a 2-player or a 4-player game. The first player to claim 2 estates, the black tiles that go from 1 to 5, gets to claim the bonus cathedral tile for 5 extra points. And then you do the same thing with cities, where whoever's played the most gets 5 points for the city, and the person with the second most gets one of the treasure tiles for 1. You add up the points that you get, and that's the points for the round. You play a number of rounds equal to the number of players. And then you total up the points from each round, and whoever has the most points is Charlemagne, I guess, or has secured the empire of Charlemagne. I'm not really clear on what the theme is there. So, you have a hand of 8 cards. I have a hand of 8 cards.
I guess I'm going first because you were the dealer.
Yeah, because you are the player to the left of the dealer.
Alright.
So, where would you like to play your first card?
I think I'm going to try to lock down Paris.
Paris? Ooh. Okay. I'm going to start out by putting a lockdown over here on Lyon. I wonder how many cards there are in each suit. 2 of each card. Yeah.
Minus the 2 we pulled.
Yeah. Rome. I'll go ahead and get in over here on Marseille. Okay. My general sense off the bat is that this will be a lot more interesting with 4 players.
Since fine, like, because since you can't talk.
Yeah, since you can't talk to your neighbor, so.
I'm not sure what it would be like with 3 players.
Mm-hmm. Did you draw one?
Yes. Okay. You put the cards in between the tiles for the 3rd player.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I guess.
So basically, just be a 3-way version of this.
Yeah.
Should be interesting, I guess. What do I want to do? I'm gonna come over here and contest Metz. Well, take control of Metz.
No contest.
Yeah, no contest right now. We haven't had any contest yet.
It's true. Now we do.
Oh!
Now we don't.
Okay. I guess I'll jump in over here on this one. Why not? Oh no! Oh man. Why is
Bordeaux
so contested?
I've just got a bunch of 1s in my hand, I
Oh,
guess.
I see. Well, I'm gonna push you over here at Strasbourg. Oh no.
I only have a bunch of 1s in my hand.
I'm gonna go to Paris also. Okay. Locked down. Do we play until we're completely out of cards?
Yeah, we use up
all cards have been played. Okay, so yeah. So we'll reach a point where we can't draw more cards. I was just like making sure that I was right, that the round didn't end when we couldn't draw.
Yeah.
I think that's you, right?
Yeah.
Because I just played in Paris. Yeah. Oh no. Well, you know what? We got some Parisian Knights of Charlemagne that show up. Uh-oh. Now I'm fighting a war on 2 fronts.
No, I think you're fighting war on 10 fronts.
That's true. I'm trying to think of, like, what we could possibly be, like, recreating in this game. I guess Charles the Great and his brother Charlemagne fighting for control of the Frankish kingdom.
Box says it's a game of conquest and glory. Sorry, what did you just do? The 4?
Yeah. Uh-oh. Last card. Okay. Where am I? Well, I don't have anything in 3.
I felt like I had 3s locked down.
Yeah.
Unless you've just got a handful of 3s over there.
Well, you never know.
I don't know.
I'm going to go ahead and renew the fight here in Lyon.
Yeah. Yeah. Do that. Because I feel like I only need that 1 over here.
Well, that puts me in a bind since we're both only going to get 1 now.
If neither of us had any more red cards, I guess. Yeah, you flip the city over and it's worth 1. That's why there are 1s on the backs of the cities.
I don't know where to commit those cards. I guess tough. I guess I'm going to do that because that makes sense to me. Oh no. You trying to muscle in on green? Huh.
So this is the one card that's facing the wrong direction, so we'll go ahead and...
Do we have to... I would say we don't, based on the rules I read.
What?
We don't have to... I get one even if I don't have anything here or here, right?
It says second place gets that. I would say if you didn't play anything there, you get nothing.
Okay, well then I'm going to play a 2 in here.
I don't actually know if that's the case, but I think
it seems...
if you didn't put any stake in it, then...
Yeah,
you know.
It seems like you would get nothing. But that may not be true if somebody has better rules than us.
Somebody wants to post some angry comments about how we are...
You're Charlemagning wrong.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Throw that down there.
Just in case I'm up to any sneaky business.
Yeah, like, do I even get anything when I play cards?
Do
here?
I bother at all?
Uh-oh. You might have a bunch of threes.
I may have just a handful of 3s.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true, because you could count the 3s on the table.
I guess, but I'm not really too interested in doing that.
Yeah.
I think if you are taking this game that seriously, then you are playing the wrong game. I'm going to go ahead and lock on the 1s.
Oh.
Bordeaux. So if you've got 3 1s, you can tie me.
That's true.
Otherwise, you might want to relocate them.
Can you relocate them?
No.
I didn't think so.
Put them at a different place other than the 1. Okay, what else are you going to do with that 5?
I could play it here if you had another 5.
Okay.
Oh no!
Big tie on the 2s!
It is a big tie on 2s.
Okay. You got that one.
Yep.
Good job. Yeah.
Uh-oh. Well... You have chosen... I was pretty sure you had a green 5.
Well, you should be able to deduce it at that point, minus 2 cards that have been randomly removed, so...
I was pretty sure that you had a green 5. And I wasn't sure if you were going to play it here for the 5s or here for the greens.
Okay! We score this. I
Yep.
get this 1 point, and you get that 1 point.
Yep.
I guess, like, I don't know. Do we even need to pick these tiles
I don't
up?
think we do.
So...
we each get 1. You get 2 and then 5.
Yep.
And I get another 1. So I have 2. We each get 1. So 3, and then I get 4, so I'm at 7.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get 5, which puts me at 12. 17, 18, 19,
You get that one too.
and then 24, 29.
20.
Okay. And that's half of one 2-player game of Knights of Charlemagne. But I'd say that people have a good sense of how that plays, so they probably don't need to watch the whole thing get played.
Yeah.
All right.
Knights of Charlemagne!
The Knights of Charlemagne. Okay, so I have a lot of things that I think about this game, but I will ask you first.
Okay.
What you think about this.
The expertise that I can lead to this discussion is I've played it with a 2-player setup and a 3-player setup.
Yep.
You've only played it 2-player.
I've only played it 2 players.
We were informed that the 3-player is better, so I was like, I'm going to give this another shot with 3 players. I went out of my way to try to convince people to play this game. It was difficult to try to convince people to play this game. So that's a starting direction. Is it difficult to get people to try to play the game? Once they sat down and played the game, and I set things up, they seemed, and these were gamer type people, they seemed to have a difficult time grasping why we were doing the things we were doing. There was also kind of a strangeness about the 3-player game. You set up the lines kind of apart, and the 3rd player plays in the middle.
Yeah.
And that was kind of a pain for that one person because he had to like reach across the table. That's just kind of a minor I mean, there's no what else you're gonna do, but
Yeah. It's kind of an odd setup.
That being said, the 3-player game was more interesting than the 2-player game. I have sort of conclusions about the game in general as a result of that, but I can say that if you are going to play this game, you should probably play it with 3 people. Maybe 4, but I don't really...
I mean, what's interesting to me about the 4-player setup is that it's the same as the 2-player setup, but you're playing on 2 teams and you can't communicate with each other, so, you can't tell your neighbor, like, don't worry, I've got 2s locked down, or whatever, so, they might be like, oh man, I only have 1-2, I've got to play it in this spot, or, I don't know. I think that's an interesting... Those kind of games where you have teams but you can't communicate are interesting to me sometimes.
Right, and I kind of brought that up while we were playing the 3-player game, like, oh, so it's like Bridge.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. And it's kind of like, would you be able to convince someone who likes Bridge to play Knights of Charlemagne?
Yeah, I don't know.
And my answer was probably not.
Yeah. So yeah, it seems like it's a very narrow... joining, a very small Venn diagram, if you will, of people who you might be able to convince to play Knights of Charlemagne and people who like Bridge, where you'd have that overlap of people for the 4-player game that would be really into it. So yeah, So do you have any other thoughts about the 3-player game experience of... how it was more interesting and...
It's less of a zero-sum experience of like, oh, you played a 1 there, well, I play a 1 on the opposite side.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I played a 1 here. Oh, well then, yeah, I'm going to counter you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just because you have 3 sides to that struggle.
Yeah.
So for me, I have tremendous issues with this game from a thematic standpoint. Because... I actually am a Carolingian historian, so I studied a lot of Charlemagne, and I can't figure out what this game is about, because it just makes no sense at all. It's just... I just can't figure out what's supposed to be happening of, if they're the Knights of Charlemagne, why are you struggling over control of these cities in the Frankish Empire? And it's just really confusing to me. And I think that extends out even to people that don't know anything about that, because like you said in your 3-player game, that people are like, why do we do these things? Like, why are we playing cards in the way we're playing them, right? And I think that kind of stems from this odd combination of the mechanics not being really interesting and them having zero to do with the theme of the game. Because, I mean, you could play this with just a deck of cards, almost. I mean, there are more suits than a standard deck of cards, but, you know, you could strip away all of the theme from this really easily, and you would lose nothing. Because it's just plain numbers and colors and spots.
You might be able to play it with, like, a deck of
Uno cards, yeah, I was thinking that, too. So I think that's just a tremendous problem for any game, that if the theme is just pasted on and completely meaningless, that it really hurts the gameplay. Unless you know, you're talking about something that is intended to be an abstract kind of purely mechanical game, and then, you know, sure, okay, but I'd rather see a theme on it. It's one of the things that I think both of us don't like about abstract strategy, that we'd rather have something that has thematic reasons behind the abstract things that are happening. So that's just tremendously problematic for me with this game. And for a long time, I saw this in game shops before you and I got a copy of it. And every time I looked at it, I was like, that game's going to be terrible. There's no way that is good. And then we got it, and you were like, hey, let's, you know, play this. I was like, I don't want to play it because it's going to be terrible. And then we played it, and it was terrible. And I wasn't sure how much of that was just my preconceived things, because I know a lot about this theme, and I was worried that was going to really taint my experience. But then when you had the same experience, more or less, I was like, okay, yes, I feel justified in my opinion that was prejudice for this game. I don't know, what do you think about that?
I will state that, well, we've already reviewed several Knizia games, and, you know, It's like, what do you expect? Like, that's...
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, just a mechanic, and there you go. I will state that the people I convinced to play the game with were kind of like, oh, I guess I'd play it again. Like, that was the kind of the reaction. I was like, well, that was just kind of like... But...
It's not, like, wildly painful to play.
But I would play it again. Like, they found it interesting enough to be like, if you brought this again, I would play it again. But we were also at a game night where there were, like, you know, 150 games available, and they're like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to see if this is a thing that's good, and they're like, oh, okay. So, you know, I think we probably play enough games that we're just like, I don't need this.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't have time for this. This doesn't need to exist, and whatever. Because it's so simple and it's not complicated to teach, this is more or less an entry-level game. I could see this being a kind of thing where if you had, like, no games, like, here's a card game that you can play with 3 or 4 people, and it's fine. But you could also play bridge.
Yeah.
With just a deck of cards, and
it's almost the same.
Yeah. So, where I stand with it... Oh, the other thing I wanted to talk about is mechanically, there are black and white zones and then colored cities.
Yeah.
And the black and white ones, like, there's like this bonus tile, and the first person who wins 2 black and white ones gets the bonus 5.
Yeah.
But you could also just ignore that entirely. It seems based on my 2 plays that like it's not worth it almost to go after those at all. It's like that's just a place where you should just drop cards if you got nothing else to do and you are just like waiting for someone else to make a move. In both of the plays that I registered, I like went out of my way to try to get that bonus tile, and it absolutely tanked my score. Like I lost significantly in both games because of that, I think.
Yeah.
So I am, I think that's a mechanical issue too, that like half of the things that score you points, like you shouldn't do because they're not as good. Thematically, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I just, it's not really a theme. I don't consider it a theme. I think it's colors and numbers, so I don't really care that it's got Charlemagne on it. I don't take offense to it.
See, it offends me.
Because I didn't study that, and I just don't care. But I also just don't care about the game in general. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. The box is this big. It's a decent sized box, and it is like, it is mostly empty space. Presumably so you can look at this wonderful picture of a guy holding a sword on the front of the box.
Yeah.
So, that's an issue for a whole nother reason.
That this could just be a pack of cards, almost.
It could just be like a tuck box size.
Yeah, because you could, instead of having the tiles, it could be cards.
Yes.
Yeah. So it could really easily just be a tuck box.
The artwork is fine. It's fine.
It's not like interesting, but it's not bad in terms of artwork.
Yeah, so I'd probably give it like a 4.
Yeah, I'd probably give it like a 3.5. So yeah, like, I don't know. I can't recommend this to anyone in any way.
Maybe if it didn't take up as much space on my shelf, I wouldn't be so disappointed in it.
Sure.
But it's like, I have to make room for this box until someone accepts it in a trade, basically.
So yeah, that's Knights of Charlemagne, and I have major thematic problems with it. You don't, but we both have mechanical problems with it, and just kind of find it boring, so it's not worth checking out.
Says the forces of Charles the Great are yours to command.
But they aren't! Like, why are the armies of Charles the Great fighting with the armies of Charles the Great? It doesn't make any sense.
Because you want to claim the most valuable estates for the king and earn everlasting glory.
But that doesn't make any sense!
Isn't that what knights do?
It's just nonsense, and it really makes me angry for no reason.
Yep. Well, there you go.